Here we go. Take 2.
That's better. That's more like
there
it.
We go. And high fidelity.
If I knew how to Mongolian throat sing, that would have been our intro for today. But I don't know how to do that.
Oh my god.
Hello and welcome to the Untranslatable Podcast. We are here recording episode 134, and today we are on the road again in Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia, and we are going to be talking about how amazing the capital of Mongolia is and what I have been up to during my stay in Mongolia. So I'm really looking forward to sharing this with you, and I have to admit, Mongolia was definitely under the radar for me in terms of places to travel and visit, but oh man, do not sleep on this city. Ulaanbaatar is amazing, and I'm looking forward to sharing some cool things about Mongolia with you. I'm sure Jared is dying of suspense to hear about what I've been up to. We usually talk quite a bit, with iMessage or whatever, and lately we have shut off communication to keep this podcast better for you. So these are the sacrifices we make in order to provide you with the best travel podcast content. So I'm looking forward to sharing some things with Jared, and I'm sure he's got some great questions for me today. So without further ado, my good buddy Jared, what's going on, Jared?
Welcome back, buddy. The only thing I've seen about your Mongolia trip are the few pictures you've posted to our Instagram, Untranslatable Podcast, and to your own personal Instagram, which are essentially the same pictures, just in a different order. Yep. But me too. Mongolia for me is also a city Mongolia as a country. Ulaanbaatar is a city I've slept on. I will be honest with you, I know nothing about the city or country. I know it's very sort of remote and transportation is difficult. That's about it. But I'm interested to hear about it. I saw your pictures. I saw all the weird things you did and cool things it looks like you did, and I'm very excited. Also, please, first though, spread a little love. 5-star reviews on Spread a little love. Oh no. Spread a little love.
Uh-oh. Spread all the love, people. Spread all the love.
Spread a little love.
Yes. This is what happens when you have a glitch. Oh, that's great.
Spread all the love. Wow, I don't know. I was telling Chad that I actually hit a button before. Maybe that's what the button makes my spread a little love. Okay, we're good. And follow us on Twitter as well, Untranslatable1, the number 1. We have a website, untranslatablepodcast.com. We have a YouTube channel. Subscribe to it. You can see us in video. It's always a surprise. Wonder, will Chad's signal be amazing today out of nowhere? Or will it be terrible? You never know.
And hopefully Jared didn't just jinx us. We'll see.
Yeah, that's funny you say that because I was just about to say what it is right now. And he's like, you know what? I'm just going to keep that to myself. I'm just happy to see you. So yeah, I'm very excited to hear about your trip to Mongolia. Let's get right into it. First of all, there were sort of two, in my mind, we were talking about this before we started recording. From what I heard about what was heard and saw, there were sort of two parts of this trip. There was like the actual reason why you were there, which was the school part of it. And then there was the extracurricular activities, the tourist attractions, sort of the exploration that you also did of Ulaanbaatar, and I assume the outside regions. First of all, explain what the point was of your trip regarding the school part of it.
Absolutely. So, as
I'm
an
still
English
a little bit fuzzy.
Sure, no problem. So, as an English language fellow, we have basically two jobs here. Our number one job is at our universities in China, but our number two is what we call secondary projects. And a secondary project is basically an extra project or extra thing you do outside of your university. So we're not really required, but we have the opportunity to go to conferences and give speeches and talks and workshops. So me
it's
being
highly recommended, you would say, though.
Exactly. And so for me, as our listeners should know by now, unless you're very new to the podcast, I'm a big music nerd and I love music. And so I gave a few workshops on using songs and using music in the classroom. So I gave a talk at the Mongolia University of Science and Technology, which they call MUST, and then the Mongolia National University.
Good name.
And there were two different conferences. One of them is called ELTAM, which is the English Language Teaching Association of Mongolia. And ELTAM, this was I believe their 13th year where they've had a conference. And so I'm pretty sure they hold it in the capital every year. I will say that what it seems to me in Mongolia is if you go anywhere, you go to the capital because that's where the most universities are, that's where the most job opportunities are. And I'll give you a quick fun fact, Jared. Over half the population of Mongolia lives in Ulaanbaatar, in the capital city.
Interesting. I mean, that kind of makes sense because from what I've at least read over the past couple of days, it does seem to be sort of a very treacherous land to sort of build on or make a city off of, and there's also a lot of nomadic people there too, so I guess that would make sense.
Exactly. But yeah, so I was there to give some workshops and work with teachers, Mongolian English teachers, and it was so much fun. The teachers were great. They were very curious, and what I learned, which I wish would be my case here in China, is Mongolian students love music and love to sing. So I guess I picked the right presentation to give at this at these two different conferences. So it was a lot of fun, and I also got to watch. Yeah,
can we post? So you posted some pictures to your personal Instagram. Mm-hmm. I loved those pictures so much of you, like the action shots. Can we post those to our Instagram? I love those.
Of course.
I love those.
Sure.
Please look at these pictures of Chad. It looks like this needs to be in a brochure. These pictures of these action shots of you, like doing these seminars, I would call it.
Right.
And people look like they're in it. You look like you're into it. You have the hand.
Oh, yeah. Yep. You call me the Tony Robbins of English and music teaching. What can I say?
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it was great. And there were quite a few very important academic people there. For any of our listeners out there who are language people, we had our keynote speaker was Diane Larson Freeman, who in the field of TESOL, of teaching English to speakers of other languages, she is an academic giant.
So you knew her before you came here.
I've read a bunch of her books. I had to in grad school. She wrote basically the Bible of how to teach grammar. And I was talking to her about the book, and she told us that it took her 7 years to complete the book. So 7 years of hard work for her to complete what is now, I would say, the book to go to if you want to learn how to teach grammar as an English, either as a foreign language or second language teacher. So it was great to meet her, and I talked to her for a little bit.
To meet her,
it was
like meeting Beyonce or something.
Right. And I talked to her, Jared. Right. Exactly. And I talked to her, and she has been to over 70 different countries.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that was really great. And she was such a nice woman too. So
is that sort of like personally, is that sort of like now obviously she has a lot of great content for you, but is that sort of a role model for how you would like to see your career go?
Oh, sure. I mean, well, I'll tell you what, there are very few people on her level in our field. Like I would say she is the upper echelon for sure, the top of the top. But yeah, I mean, I would love that. But if I were to get there, I would probably need to go back and do a PhD. Not so sure I'm going to do that. We'll see. Talk to me in 5 years, and maybe I'll have a different answer for you. But yeah, but the cool thing about both of these conferences and being able to work with these teachers in Mongolia, and I've found the same thing here in China as well, is that people are so appreciative of your efforts to help them out as native speaker language teachers, and also, I mean, I'm going to go out on a limb and say we're experts in our field. You know, I feel like if you have a master's, you should be an expert in whatever field you're in.
You're allowed to say that without being cocky.
Right, exactly. So it was really great, Jared. I've got to say, it was a lot of fun, and I will tell you, I was there for 6 days. 5 out of the 6 days we were working most of the day. But during the evening and the one day we had off, we were able to do a lot of fun cultural stuff. So we'll talk about that later.
So
this episode.
Regarding so did you? I was going to ask you about that, and I'm glad you brought it up. You taught for 5 of the 6 days you were there, or worked, whatever you call that, whatever you call what you're doing. Were you giving the same speech to different groups, or is this set up to be a seminar that you could do over days?
So basically you can look at it at 2 different conferences. So with different audiences.
Okay.
So the first conference was the first few days we got in. We got in on Friday. We registered for the conference on Friday. There was a keynote speech by Diane Larson Freeman and another amazing speech by Dr. Cynthia Doss, who I worked with for a couple different sessions, and she's amazing. She teaches, I believe, at Nottingham University in Malaysia, and she was awesome, and she was teaching something that I had never heard before, Jared, never heard about, and it's called brain teaching. And basically these, and she used a lot of mind mapping, which is like you kind of create like a diagram. And the cool thing about mind mapping is it's very free form. So you can write it you can write it however you want.
Chad's excited.
I'm getting too excited. Exactly. So, every student's mind map will look different, but mind map is a way to make associations, I believe, with the right side of your brain and the left side of your brain. And the whole point of like brain teaching is to engage all the different parts of the brain. So one side of the brain is used for like lists and numbers and stuff like that. Another side of the brain is used for like pictures and stuff like that. So
right. So it's like really like artistic versus analytical side of your brain.
Right. And so you get both of those sides of the brain working, and there's a lot of research that shows that really helps learn language. So it was great.
But I bet you it's also tough to like have that good proper balance.
I don't know, the way she gave the presentation seems like if you use mind mapping and if you do a couple different strategies, it's not as difficult as you would think. Okay. But you do have to go away from the traditional view of teaching, which is like lecture, write notes, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Right. But you love you love going away from that is what I mean.
Exactly. And so I think in the future, I'm going to need to do my homework more. But I think in the future, we should do a teacher's edition on that type of teaching, because it was really amazing to hear about it. And I'm hoping to collaborate with her in the future as well. She wants me to do some research for her here in China. So I might see if I can do that. So that would be really cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So what do you mean? What does she mean by research? Like, what does that involve? How do you make it scientific or whatever?
So basically, I would just be doing some data collection. So what I want to do is do a unit on project-based learning, which is all about giving the students their own autonomy, and basically you have them. So what I would do is have them create their own lesson plan, and instead of me. So the traditional way to do this, we have a chapter in my teaching methodology course all about lesson planning. And the old-fashioned way to do this would be I just lecture them about how to write a lesson plan, right?
Right.
Project-based learning would be I have them do the research themselves and write the lesson plans themselves. And so there's a couple different stages. But the cool thing about project-based learning is it allows the students to be more creative. Mm-hmm. It forces them to solve problems themselves. It also kind of arms them with the different skills of collaborative learning. You have to be creative. You have to be able to communicate, because project-based learning is usually in groups. And not only do you have to communicate with your group members, but then usually at the end of project-based learning, you do a showcase where you basically present or show what you've done and you explain it. And these are all important skills later in life. You know, being able to collaborate with others. I'm sure you have to do that very often at your job. You have to be able to problem solve. I think that's important for any job, or
just about any job.
Right. And you have to be a clear communicator, which is key.
Yeah.
It's really important. So we'll see. I'll keep you updated on that, and depending on how it goes, we could even do an episode about that as well. But it was great. Anyways, Dr. Cynthia Doss was awesome to talk to. Both of them were great, and it was such an enriching conference. And that was just the conference side. The cultural side as well was so amazing. And I loved Ulaanbaatar, and I hope to make it back before my contract ends in June. So that's how much I liked it.
But yeah, we'll get to that later. And
exactly.
That's a big cliffhanger because I'm very interested, and I can't wait to hear about it. But for now, we can
spread a little love.
If you have any shout outs? I assume you do.
Absolutely. Also, I don't know if you noticed, but the Trello is up.
Oh, I never checked.
The Trello is up, but great timing because I just switched that over. Okay, so I have 3 shout outs for today. Number 1, this one just goes out to this one goes out to researchers at Crowther Lab in Zurich because they have shown that if we do actually start taking reforestation more seriously, so planting more trees, and I quote Jared, there's an indication that this has mind-blowing potential to tackle the climate crisis. So basically, this study that was published by researchers of Crowther Lab in Zurich says that planting trees across 0.9 billion hectares, which I couldn't tell you how big that is, of land.
Isn't that 8? Hexagon is 6. Actually.
So would that be six acres? I'm not sure. Anyways,
okay. Sorry.
This could capture as much as 2/3 of all emissions that have been released by human activities. So since the report, though, this has already caused some change. Since the report, local and national governments as well as companies have pledged to plant millions of trees, which if you've listened to our shout-outs, we've talked about numerous times.
You have. Let's be clear.
Well, yeah, that's fair. I care about the climate. Jared's just like, oh, whatever. We're all going to die anyways.
Well, let's not get carried away.
I'm just kidding.
Don't put that out there. Come on.
Right. Don't put that on me.
I recycle.
Yeah, so what's cool, though, about this, Jared, is Timberland, the boot brand, which has a tree on their logo, has pledged to support this by planting 50 million trees by 2025. As well as Timberland and other governments, the U.S. government, Dominican Republic government, Haiti, China, and Mali have also pledged to plant a bunch of trees in the future as well. So I think this is really amazing. I also think it would be amazing to have a greener planet, not only in terms of cleaner air, but just more trees. I think trees are beautiful. Yeah. And it's great for wildlife and animals as well. So shout out to the company Timberland, all of the governments willing to plant more trees, and also the Crowther Lab in Zurich for publishing such an important article that has already ignited change within countries and companies. I think that's amazing. So my next shout out, Jared. Sorry, go ahead.
All I was going to say was, I agree with you about the tree thing. That's one thing I really love about now being back in Michigan after being in Philadelphia. It's just there is more greenery around in general. It's nice.
Right. And I'm lucky, too, here in Jinan because I'm further in the outskirts and there's a lot of beautiful mountains and greenery. So it's very nice. Okay, my next shout out goes out to a retired fisherman named Paul Swanson, who has found a new purpose for fishing. So Paul Swanson from Spokane, Washington, is the founder. Spokane, sorry. Thank you, Jared. Is the founder of the H2O Magnet Fortunes Club, which is a magnet fishing group dedicated to collecting rusty scrap metal from the Spokane River. So the funny thing is, though, is they interviewed him and he was asked why he started the organization. I think you're going to love his answer, Jared. His answer was, I was bored. So he couldn't fish anymore because of the lines and I'm not sure. Maybe there were some other difficulties. And so he decided to create a little magnet fishing club in Spokane, Washington. So since the club began in mid-June, they have collectively salvaged 11,100 pounds of metal, which are all sold to a recycling company. And then everything that's processed is donated to SOAR, S-O-A-R, which is a caregiving organization for children with autism.
That's
so
crazy.
Not only is he cleaning up the river, but they're donating all this metal to an organization to help children with autism. So this is like a double whammy of goodness here. And we send double the amounts of love to you, Mr. Swanson, because it's absolutely amazing.
Yeah,
Absolutely
that is.
amazing.
That's yeah. Wow.
Warms your heart, right, Jared?
Yeah, no, it's just impressive. Yeah, I don't know. That is very impressive. Because I feel like a lot of people would be, praised for their making the machine. But, it would probably be easy to make a company out of that or something, or,
Oh, easy.
Or,
I mean, think about all the money you
trademark it
could
or
make
whatever.
from that. Right.
Yeah.
You can make a lot of money from that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But we really applaud and praise selfless acts like that here. And my last one is
betcha.
also a very selfless act, which is, let me find the name of the teacher. Jim Freeman. So my shout goes out to a teacher in Kentucky named Jim Freeman, who carried a student with spina bifida, which is a disease where you can't really walk. And this student has been wheelchair bound for most of her life. And they were going on a class field trip to walk around a state park in Ohio. Trip to Falls. Well, it says Falls of the Ohio State Park, so I assume it's in Ohio. And the student was heartbroken for the process of missing out on the fun of being able to see the state park. And because of Jim Freeman stepping up and carrying her on his back, she was able to see the park
Wow,
terrain.
Chad.
Sorry, I messed up on that one. She was able to see all the beautiful scenery
Slipping
within
on
the state
gator
park.
piss.
No kidding. But yeah, so I think that's really amazing that this teacher was
Yeah.
willing to help out a student. And I don't even think this teacher was the one that was going on the field trip. So I think it's really amazing. It's a
So he just
heartwarming
went
story.
along just to help
I think so. The
student to
article
like
doesn't
somebody
really
not in
say.
class today or what?
Right. But yeah. So anyways, that's enough love spreading for now. I think it's time. Jared knows what time it is.
I do. Here you go. The untranslatable owl has struck, and that means it's time for some new idioms, sayings, proverbs that don't make any sense if you translate them directly, but they do have some nice sage advice, wisdom, or a insult hidden somewhere deep in there. We just have to find it. Mine are all Mongolian.
Oh, good.
So-
Because are you serious?
I'm 100% serious.
Great. Because I was going to preface this untranslatable section by saying I couldn't find any. So props to you for finding Mongolian ones. Mine today are Chinese. So hit me with some Mongolian, Jared. Let's do this.
Well, I'll say this. First of all, it looks like they use a alphabet similar to the Russian one.
Yep. It's called Cyrillic.
Okay. And second thing, the phonetic translations are just cut your boy some slack. Is all I'm saying.
Fair enough.
Mukuni du changa. A bad person's voice is loud. Now, first of all, hold on a second. Just hearing that, do you hear that and think back to your week in Mongolia and be like, oh yeah, I could definitely imagine something like this being said there.
Yeah.
Or people feeling this way.
I don't see why not. Sure. I was kind of in a bubble because I spent most of the time with the other English fellows who are all Americans.
That's a good
But
point.
sure. So what
A
was it
bad
again?
a bad person's voice is loud.
So it's like, I think I know what this means. It's just trying to put it into words,
Right.
How to explain it. Because
I can
I
imagine that.
think this one is clear. This one seems like it's clear.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah?
Could be.
I
I'm gonna
mean,
need you to give me something though. Take a stab at it.
Right. I would say that this is just like, that I feel like we have a phrase in English, like stupid people are like it's just easy to tell when someone's a bad person. Like they're loud, like their actions speak louder than words.
I'm gonna give you that. I'm gonna give you that. Sure. But
Okay.
I'll tell you what they said. Loud conversation style with a high pitch is considered immature and evil. Most Mongolians talk
interesting.
quietly with little inflection. That can partly be attributed to this proverb. Talking softly and with little intonation can balance the idiosyncrasy of our language. is what they
Oh,
say.
fascinating. And it's funny you mentioned that, Jared, because the airport announcer
Whispered?
well, she was super monotone. Like there was no inflection on her voice. She was like, "Flight CO2 is now boarding.
Oh, well, there you go.
Please check into the boarding gate." Like it was very mono, and I was like, "Are you bored? Are you tired?" She probably was bored, but still.
No, I think, yeah, that's a good point.
Right.
But yeah, no, I think that's just their style of talking.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
At least according
So
to that one untranslatable on one website that I found.
Right. So my first one for you, well, both of mine are Chinese today, and I believe this is a Chengyu, but I could be wrong. So it is Hua Long Dianjing, which means dotting the eyeball when painting a dragon.
It's like dotting your I's and crossing your T's. You make sure you cover you make sure you get every detail. Very detail oriented.
I would say,
it's like, are you guessing? And it's like, oh, you got the answer. Or like, oh, you got right on the money.
I would say this one we use. I think you could use that one in that way, but I think there's another meaning to it. I think the other meaning, we have an untranslatable in English that has to do with cake.
Piece of cake?
No. On the top of the cake.
Oh, like the cherry on
Yeah. No, you're right.
Oh,
either the cherry on top or the icing on the cake.
Right. Okay. Because let's say cherry on top. My first thought was actually like a sundae.
Right. So here's the description here's the description I have for you, Jared. It's used to describe adding that finishing touch that brings a work of art to life, or adding a word or two to clinch the point.
Like that final touch. It's like, hold on. It's like, ski.
Right.
It's
maybe
like,
the sprinkles on top. The sprinkles on top. I think that's a better one.
When I make like some sort of bolognese or something, I'll be like, hold on. Then you like sprinkle some Parmesan on top, and it's like,
exactly.
Right.
exactly.
Like the Salt Bay. Like, anyway.
Exactly.
I another. You did it backwards. That was hilarious. You held your hand with, so it would have fallen into your elbow.
That's right. I'm a snack, Jared. What can I say?
You really don't know how to cook, do you? Anyway, my next one is also Mongolian. All of mine are, and it's Bukhin Dudokhug Karj Unig Tuj Ukek. Oh, that's it. I didn't end it like that was the end, but that was the end.
And that means?
Fox starves to death by looking at the bottom of an ox.
Fox starves to death by looking at the bottom of the ox. Is this like you have to take action? You have to go get, if you want something, you got to go get it?
Yeah, man.
Ooh, all right.
I mean, it's kind of the opposite. Like, that's what the meaning is. It's like to let grass grow under your feet. But, obviously, to just, it's essentially,
Or to watch paint dry?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a great, to watch grass grow or to watch paint dry. Those are two classic wasting time.
Exactly.
I feel like I can imagine your parents saying both of those to you.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Most definitely. All right. So my last one for you today, Jared, is Chinese. And I think this one is also a Chengyu. So it is Zhi Shang Tanbing, which means armchair strategy.
Oh, it's like a armchair quarterback, where it's like you are trying to, like you're trying to act like you have the solutions, but you're just like sort of sitting down, watching it happen, and just throwing out random ideas to the professionals, essentially.
I'll give you that one, but I think it's a little different. I think this one means basically when you are all talk, no action.
Okay, so it is slightly different, because armchair quarterback is more like someone that has really doesn't know what they're talking about. That's acting like they're like the pro.
Right. So right here, Jared, an armchair strategy refers to people who engage in idle talk but are unable to act on their high-minded theories. Is usually used to urge people to combine theories with practical knowledge and not only be bookworms. So there you go.
One more Mongolian one.
Perfect.
And it's Turin, Tulu, Agotno, Buj, Ukene. And it's like the mouse that hanged itself for the state.
For the state?
Mm-hmm.
So is this like you shouldn't be just like a sheep, like a follower?
Not really, but it does have to do with like political involvement, essentially.
Okay. Give it to me. What is it?
Don't bother with politics. Your efforts won't amount to anything. So apparently what I read was that there is like they do like to talk politics a lot in Mongolia. Mm-hmm. And sometimes people would say, will say, you're like a mouse that hung yourself for the state. Like it's pointless.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, yeah, that I think that really makes a lot of sense.
Did you notice a lot of political talk when you were there?
No. But then again, when I was interacting with Mongolian people, it was more they were asking me questions about the United States and English teaching and stuff like that. So yeah, actually, I didn't get one Trump question while I was there. Now that I think about it.
Oh, what a relief!
I know, right? But yeah, and I think some Mongolians are. It seems like some Mongolians though are very interested in politics, and others really don't care. It's kind of like the States.
Yeah.
So Jared, before I tell you all about my experience in Mongolia, I've found some really interesting Mongolian proverbs, and I want to talk about them with you and see if we can try to figure out what some of these mean. Some of these are, I think, very clear, but I thought these would be cool and just kind of a fun way to segue from untranslatables to Mongolia. So I think this one's pretty clear, but I really love this proverb. Who cleans up the dirt washes away happiness.
Who cleans up the dirt? So it's like, don't, what I hear is like, don't live in denial of your shortcomings or don't hide like your skeletons in your closet, because all of these things are what makes you, and you can't just live your life being like some squeaky clean robot.
Yeah,
that's what that feels like to me.
Yeah, I agree. I was also thinking this one could also mean like, don't be afraid to get dirty. Like, don't be afraid to work hard and put your
you betcha
and really give it your all. Because what I've noticed in life so far, Jared, in my almost 28 years, is that
someone's got a birthday coming up.
That's right. There was a subtle little nudge, but no. So I mean, all the things that have really made me happy in life haven't come easy. I've had to work hard for them. If we're talking about this whole dirt metaphor, I've had to there's been some blood, sweat, and tears in there. And if you just kind of try to wash it away, or like you said, be in denial of it, you're not being your full self. So yeah, but I really like that one. My next one for you,
and no one likes people that act like they have no flaws and that or that like seem like they're just flawless. Like no one likes those people.
Right. Exactly. I agree. My next one for you, Jared, is you can't put two saddles on the same horse.
Can't put two saddles on the same horse. Now this seems like it should be obvious, but I'm initially struggling here.
Me too, and that's why I picked this one, because on at face value, it seems it maybe this one just goes without trying to explain, because it seems like it makes sense. What I think it is you just can't do two things at once. Like if you want to ride a horse properly, you can't put two saddles on it. You gotta just focus on the one thing you're doing. What I should have done in hindsight is given these proverbs to some of my Mongolian friends and had them tell me about them. But I didn't do that because we were too busy talking about English teaching. But
stick a microphone in their face.
That's right. Yeah,
record them. Record this real quick.
Right. It's for research purposes. Don't worry. But yeah, all right. I have a couple more
Just
for you.
sign this real quick. Just sign this.
Couple more for you. I love this one. This one might even have to be like a. I feel like this would be on an inspirational poster. A man fails 7 times and rises 8 times.
Oh yeah, it's just like no one succeeds without failure, essentially. Mm-hmm. And that's a classic untranslatable. I'd probably say just about all around the world.
Right. Oh, for sure.
Some form or another.
Right. Absolutely. And the last one I'll give you is A tiger wearing a bell will starve. I'm not really sure what that means. Like, I kind of get it, but I'm not really sure.
I think, you know what? I'm going to argue that has something to do with a bad person's voice is a loud one. Where it's
I would agree.
You don't, like, I think it sort of reinforces not a fan of loud people, where it's like, you're never going to get what you want if you're all loud about it. Man, they must, and they like Americans, is what you're saying.
Seems like it. Seems like it.
We are a loud bunch.
We really are. But now that I think about it, Mongolian people were not. Yeah, like when I was in restaurants, they did not talk loud. And we were at a restaurant, and there was we don't know why they moved, but there was a group of people sitting at a table behind us, and they moved. So I don't know if they moved because they like saw us and like we were being loud, and they were like, "Oh, these annoying loud Americans." Could have been they just moved because like a couple more people. I don't really know. But anyways, now let's get into my cultural experience in Mongolia because we've covered the teaching portion. But so just I'll give you my first. Yeah.
I hate to do this, but before we even get into this, could you give me, at least from what you know or learned during your time there, just a quick.
Are you French, Jared?
Slipping on gator piss. Could you give me a quick lesson on Mongolia and sort of like its history? On like how it.
Oh, geez, that's a big question. That's a loaded question.
But sort of like what's its place in society? I just don't know really anything about it.
That's an episode within itself, right there, Jared.
I know.
The question you just asked me.
Just for a quick opening question,
right? Yeah. Just be brief. Couple sentences
Explain
about
Mongolia. Go.
The entire history of Mongolia, the government system. Okay,
its culture, just in one sentence.
Right. So I'll tell you the brief things I know. And I did get to go to the National Mongolia Museum of History, which was really cool. But you weren't allowed to take photos. So had I been allowed to take photos, I would have been able to refer back to this. And I didn't bring a pen and paper and wasn't taking notes for the podcast because I'm a terrible co-host, as Jared knows. So, but what I can tell you about Mongolia is historically it was made up of I forget the number of families, but there were like families or tribes. I believe there were 8 of them. I could be wrong. And it was mostly made up of nomadic people. So they would travel with, different herds of animals. As you mentioned in our previous episode, Mongolia is home to the two-humped camel. That is a native species of Mongolia. In Mongolia, they do have the Gobi Desert. So those camels are super useful in the Gobi Desert. And the cool thing about Mongolia is, as I mentioned on the last episode, it is roughly the size of Alaska. So it's a very large country. Although the most dense population is in Ulaanbaatar, the capital. And I will tell you, Jared, my own experience there, the traffic is crazy within the city. Because when the city was built, it was not designed to have this many people and this much traffic. Back then, people were using horses, not cars, and even camels to travel around. So as you can imagine, you're not going to have camel jams or horse jams, but you definitely get traffic jams.
And if I'm not mistaken, the infrastructure is not great.
It's still, I would say, in a lot of ways, an up-and-coming city. Like, when we came in from the airport, there's still tons of high-rise apartment buildings being built. And I hate to go back and compare Mongolia to China because they're very different. But it did remind me a lot of China, just the big high-rises being built. Because even here in China, you drive around and you see tons of high-rises being built still.
Right.
And, Ulaanbaatar, the only way you can really build now is up.
I'm looking at pictures of, like, I just typed in Ulaanbaatar traffic, and it's literal chaos. Like, it's just like cars in all sorts of directions sort of just going at each other.
And so let me tell you, Jared, when we came in from the airport on Friday, it was really crazy because we had 2 nine passenger sized vans because there were 9 of us, and the guy that was driving in front of us in the van he didn't hit, but his wheel, he was turned. And I mean, you literally have to pull out and be super aggressive. I thought people used their horns a lot in China. Holy crap, dude. It was like horns every other second. And the funny thing is, there were a few times where like people were at a stoplight and the light was red and people were still honking. And this was when I was walking around, so I was on the sidewalk. But I was like, what are you honking at? Like, they literally
can't go anywhere.
Can't go. Like, yeah, why are you honking? So the traffic there is pretty crazy. You have to be an incredibly aggressive driver. Like, I could not imagine.
No one lets anyone in anywhere.
Right. You pull in, basically. And the crazy thing was, the van in front of us, actually, they didn't hit, but because it's so tight in there, he was turning, and he just tapped the person, the Prius in front of him with his tire. So there was no dent, no damage. But the guy got out of his car. The guy in the van got out, and they were like yelling at each other. And he was basically like, "Look, man, like it was just my tire. Like there's no damage, there's no problem."
Yeah, and it's like, what do you expect? Look at this. The fact I could tell you this: I've never been that close to a car. I've been driving for 10 years or whatever. Right. I've never been so close to a car that I could turn my wheel and touch a car with my wheel. You know.
Right.
Like, that is ridiculously close in itself on, like, a major road or whatever.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, well, like I said, the streets weren't designed to have all these cars and all these people living in one place.
You get kind of motion sick, don't you?
I don't get motion sickness at all.
That's not you? Okay.
Come on, I'm not Chris. I'm not your cousin.
Oh, come on.
No, I don't get... Thankfully, I don't get motion sickness. But there were definitely a couple jerky moments in the van where I was like, oh, like... You know, just because we were like going and stopping. Kind of hard to look out the window
occasionally, like.
Yep. Oh yeah. Well, I was in the back though too, and I was like, you know what? If we get in an accident, like I'm probably safe where I am. You know, it's.
And as I always say in those situations, you got to look at the person's car. What does their car look like?
Right. And these vans were immaculate. There were no dents, no dings, nothing. So we were good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the crazy thing was too, though. I would guess if there wasn't traffic, it'd probably be a 20-minute drive to get from the airport, which is slightly on the outskirts of Ulaanbaatar, into our hotel was right by what they call Sukhbatar Square, which is the square where the parliament building is. It's really cool. And I believe the hotel, so I stayed at, it's called Hotel Ulaanbaatar, and this is one of the first 5-star hotels that was ever in Ulaanbaatar, and I believe it was a hotel for Russian diplomats and stuff back in the day.
Yeah, okay.
So it was super fancy, fancy. I think I paid about $60 to $65 a night, somewhere around there.
Wow, balling on a budget.
Right,
That's great.
So yeah, well, that's the nice thing about Mongolia is it's very affordable. And the crazy thing is, though, too, is that the Mongolian currency, as we mentioned on the previous episode, they use like thousands. So like if you buy a meal, it'll be 20 to 40,000 Mongolian. I believe it's called like Turiks or something like that. So I just had wads of bills, dude. I felt like I was a boss. And then I do the conversion rate.
You got like $6.
Like I paid 5,000. I paid 5,000.
Tugruk is what it's called.
Tugruk, thank you. I paid 5,000 Tugruk for like 2 beers. And I was like, how expensive is this? And I did the conversion. It was like $2. So that was pretty interesting. Walking around with all that cash. But yeah, Ulaanbaatar, man, was such a cool city. I mean, just the architecture was awesome. There's this really cool bar we went to. It's a bar in a hotel called Blue Sky. And Blue Sky was awesome because it's on the 23rd floor, and you get this beautiful view of the entire city. And we went at night, so it was all lit up and illuminated, and that was really awesome. And the interesting thing about Mongolian, as you mentioned, Jared, the alphabet is Cyrillic, which is like a Russian alphabet. And the reason why is because the Soviets were in Mongolia. Right. They occupied it for quite some time. And before the Soviets came, there was less than a 2% literacy rate among Mongolians. Oh, wow. That's probably because they were nomadic people. And I mean, you don't really need to read to hunt and trade, like it's not like you really need to read. And so after the Soviets came, they had a very hard push towards literacy, and now I think like over 90% of Mongolians are literate. Oh, wow. But the alphabet they use is Cyrillic. Right. But I'm not sure how that works because they don't speak Russian; they speak Mongolian. So the alphabet is Cyrillic, which is interesting that that's the alphabet. It makes sense because the Soviets were there, but I wonder how the Cyrillic sounds work with the Mongolian sounds is what I'm saying.
Right. So there's not really like a relation between the Mongolian and Russian language, except for the fact that they use the same alphabet.
Correct. Yeah, Mongolian and Russian. Yeah, I don't think Mongolian and Russian have any relation.
When I saw the alphabet, I just assumed, I'm sure there's like, some level of similarity there. Yeah, but I guess it's similar to like it seems almost kind of foolish to say, how does that work? Because it's like, the alphabet that we use here in the United States is used in a whole bunch of other countries where we can't even begin to understand what they're saying, and they make it work.
Very true. That's a great point. Maybe just because the alphabet's different to my eye, I was thinking that. That's a good point, though.
I understand where you're coming from, though. Like, I definitely understand that thought process that you would have to be like, I don't even know how to make that work, but...
Yeah. Let's see here.
You were there with like a group. This group of people was like a sector of the people that you met when you first got there, or a group of those people.
So these are, I would call them my colleagues. They're all other English language fellows around China, and there's 2 of them in Mongolia that hosted us and showed us around. And so I believe there were 11 of us altogether.
They weren't driving though.
No. Well, so thankfully where our hotel was located, we were within walking distance to both universities during the conference. And then we did rent a van to take us out. So we went out to the...
with the driver, you didn't drive. No one drove.
Right, no one drove. But we were on this bus, and then we went all the way out to, I believe it's called Tuf, which is Mongolian for middle. And so we went to a different province, and there they have... a giant statue of Genghis Khan. And I will tell you, Jared, in a lot of countries and cultures, Genghis Khan is looked at as a villain. Mm-hmm. He is a complete hero in Mongolia, which makes sense. I mean,
isn't that where he originated from?
Well, one, he was Mongolian, and 2, I mean, he made the Mongolian Empire huge. The Mongolian Empire, I wish I could have taken a picture. Essentially. Right. Well, the Mongolian Empire, I wish I could have taken a picture at the museum because they had maps comparing the Holy Roman Empire, Alexander the Great's empire, Napoleon's empire, and the Mongolian Empire was like 2 times the size of all those other empires. Like it spanned... Go ahead.
There's just some sort of like ridiculous stat. I'm looking at a picture of it. It is gigantic of the map. There is some... it almost looks like almost the size of like Russia or something like that.
Yeah, it's huge.
There is a stat that I don't know exactly what it is. I'm kind of just making this up, but it's essentially that gigantic portion of the of humans have some sort of trace of Genghis Khan in them, just because of the amount of land that they conquered and sort of
right. Well, I know in some Asian countries. Right. I know in some Asian countries they actually have a birthmark. I don't know what it looks like, but there's a birthmark that they call like the Mongolian or Genghis Khan birthmark. So yeah, but he's definitely seen as a big hero in Mongolia for good reason. And so we got to go out to the statue, and the statue I believe I thought they said it was like 30 meters high. You're going to have to do the conversion in feet because I have no idea, but it was gigantic. It was huge, and it was all made out of silver. And then in this, if you just Google Jared Genghis Khan statue Mongolia, and
that's
you should see it's this
feet,
huge.
By the way, 98.
There you go.
And a half feet.
And it was huge. And within the statue, in the basement of the statue, there's a museum, and so that museum was super cool. They had different traditional Mongolian clothing. They also had pictures of all.
Yeah, and it's like in the middle of nowhere too.
Yeah. And so you can look out and you can see what they call the steppes, which are these mountains.
That horse looks gigantic.
Yeah.
You know,
go ahead.
Remember when we went to Treptow Park in Berlin? I feel like if you put that gigantic statue, it would be like one of those horses' legs.
I don't think it's that big, but it's definitely bigger than the statue in Treptow Park, for sure.
Gigantic.
Yeah, and the cool thing is you can climb all the way up to the top, and there's like a spot at the horse where you can get out and look out. And so you see this beautiful view of the mountains, or the steppes, as they call them in Mongolia. And it's really amazing. It was quite a sight. Right? I'm going to now, because I'm back in China and I don't have Instagram, I can't post them, but I will send you all these.
You can send them to me. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, took you should be proud of me, Jared. I took so many pictures while I was there.
I can't wait. That
But yeah,
is
so that was great.
That might be one of the most impressive statues I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, for
and I'm
sure.
looking at a picture, but
Right. Yeah, being there was really amazing. And the museum downstairs was really cool. They also had a painting of, oh shoot, I don't remember the number now. I think it was either 26 or 36 different khans or like emperors. So they had paintings all throughout of these different emperors of Mongolia. And the way it worked was Genghis Khan, the reason why he's so important is he united all of the different tribes. So before him, they would have, they'd have their own tribal leaders. And back then, I guess the way it would work is if you defeated I think it was like this in most places back then, if you defeated the other village or tribe, you became the emperor. But I don't know But I don't know if he killed all the other ones or how they made it work. But it was really quite something to see. And what's interesting is the whole point of where the statue is. There's kind of this story in history that this is where Genghis Khan, when he was 17 years old, he found a golden horse whip right near where the statue was. And in Mongolian culture, horses are incredibly important. And a golden horse whip represents luck and good fortune. So they kind of say
really
that
almost like deified over there.
Oh, for sure.
Bit.
100%.
I didn't realize it was like that.
Oh, 100%. I mean, look, the airport is called Genghis Khan Airport.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah. Okay. And in Mongolian, it's spelled Chinggis. We say Genghis. I don't know if they say Chinggis or Genghis. I'm not sure how they say it.
I say Shaka Khan.
There you go. But yeah, so Genghis Khan is a big thing in Mongolia. And I gotta say, man, being from the West, I always thought of him kind of like a villain. Now I kind of think of him as a hero. It's kind of changed my perspective.
I kind of thought of him as a villain too. And maybe it helps that he was far enough back in time where you can sort of this is going to be a terrible thing to say. Just bear with me.
No, here we go.
The Holocaust was, I think, too soon in comparison for people to say I don't know. As I hate that I just said that, but I feel like it helps. What I'm essentially trying to say is I feel like it helps that it was further back in time.
Right.
And it's not as fresh or it's more, even though there is history to it, it's more of like a lore almost than fact to most people.
Sure. Well, yeah, you're right. I think the further time goes back, it becomes more of, it almost doesn't feel real. Yeah. Right. It feels like a legend or a fable. But yeah, so
it's very real though. It's just to be clear.
Right. No kidding. But yeah, so that was really amazing. We went on Monday, and the other cool thing is on the way out there, we stopped by this, I don't know what you would call it. I don't know if you'd call it a farm or what you would call it, but they had camels and they had gold eagles and they had a little target where you could shoot bow and arrow, and they had some souvenirs you could buy. And so we stopped off there. And in hindsight, I should have rode the 2-hump camel. I didn't. I don't know why I didn't.
Fear? I'd be a little afraid.
I mean, they're tall, dude. They're super tall. So maybe some of it was fear. I was also enjoying the sights.
Do you ride in between the humps and look around it, or do you?
Yeah, you ride it. Well, the humps aren't that high, but yeah, you ride in between the humps, and you hold on to the front hump.
I imagine Ace Ventura when he drives his car and sticks his head out the window.
Right. No, they're not that high up, but camels are so cool, dude. When we got there, they're just chilling, and they're always I forget, there's a specific term, they chew in a circle, and it's kind of funny. They're just kind of goofy looking the way they're chewing in a circle.
I've seen single humped camels in Morocco before.
Right, and so these are double humped. I
realized the double hump thing was special, a special sort of specific to Mongolia.
Yep.
Camel,
native species of camel there, so I got to hold a golden eagle, and I tell you what, man,
now that's scary.
These things are deceptively heavy. You'd think they'd be light because they're a bird.
Right.
I held it, and I think the one I held was about 10 kilos, so about 22 pounds. And how a bird that's 20, how can a bird be 22 pounds? I don't know, and still be able to fly. But it was kind of heavy.
It's a powerful bird, though.
Right. And the funny thing is, when you hold them, what you have to do, if you look at pictures, and I think I posted pictures of me holding the eagle on Instagram.
On your account.
Okay,
We'll,
so
we'll
I'll have
them
to
up
send
on
that
ours,
your way.
on ours
Yeah.
when this episode is up, though.
But what you have to do is when you have the like little sleeve because they have talons, and what you have to do is you have to rock your arm back and forth, and when you do that, that's when they spread their wings like they're flying. So that's
Is
how
that
you
like,
make it look like they're flying.
Does it feel because to them does it feel like they're about to like fall off or something?
Probably, and they need to
So
balance.
it's like a balance thing.
Right.
Yeah, I mean it looks very majestic. The only thing that makes this picture kind of not cool is the big cheese and grin on your face.
Right. No kidding. Right. Well, the funny thing is we were joking around with my colleagues, and when we would take pictures, we would do what we would call a Mongolian smile, which was no smile at all. Just because if you look at historical pictures of anybody, it's not even of Mongolians, but anybody, like historical black and white pictures, nobody smiles.
Right.
And so we
My
saw a bunch
grandparents
of.
don't smile in pictures.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
So that's when we jokingly started to be like Mongolian smile, and then everyone would just like deadpan serious, like.
If you if you type in Golden Eagle Mongolia, there are some powerful pictures of Mongolian, mostly men, in these giant fur jackets, making the birds do the wing thing, and they're a lot of them are doing the Mongolian smile.
So here's another interesting thing though about Mongolian people, Jared, is that the nomads, especially the ones who use these golden eagles to hunt, because they use them to hunt, they have a purpose. They train them.
So they're trained to bring the animals back to you.
I'm not really sure how it works, but I would assume so.
But there is a system where they kill stuff and you get it.
I think. Okay. I don't know enough about it, but
I mean, if
can
they're
tell
using
you
them to
though,
hunt, you'd assume that they're getting it somehow.
Right. Or maybe spot something too. But anyways, what's interesting is the Mongolian hunters that use these golden eagles, they have developed crazy, amazing eyesight to be able to spot their eagle in the sky. So like for most people, 20/20 vision is like great vision, right? I guess Mongolian people are somewhere up in the 60s or 70s, which I don't even know how that works.
Wow.
I'm no eye doctor, but like their eyesight is amazing.
I know essentially what that means is you can see like what normal people can see from 20 feet away looks normal to those people at 60 feet away, essentially.
I see. There we go. Thank you.
That seems insane. So it's just because they've been there's like generations of needing that good eye. So it's just been sort of interesting.
Right. Exactly. And I will tell you, I saw way less people wearing glasses in Mongolia than I see here in China. So that was also kind of interesting.
I wonder, is there also a lot more now? I don't know if this is there a lot more staring at technology happening in China also, I feel like?
Yes, big time.
Okay,
people are not attached to their phones in Mongolia. Well, one, they don't have
the infrastructure.
They don't have WeChat Pay. People in Mongolia use WeChat, but I don't think they're as dependent on it as people in China are. Like people in China use it for everything. They use it to pay. They use it for like social media. They use it. You can like book a cab or a car from WeChat. So in Mongolia, they're just not as dependent on it. They probably only use it as a messaging app. But most Mongolians that I came into contact with were actually messaging me using WhatsApp. So I don't even think they use WeChat that much at all.
Oh my God. We forgot to mention this. You were internet free.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I had access to YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, everything, Gmail. It was so nice, dude. And that's why I was posting stuff on our Instagram, because I could actually access it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it good? Like, was it...
the internet was pretty... so here's the weird thing. So what I did my first or second day there, one of my colleagues told me, oh, yeah, they have like a thing for tourists where you can get a SIM card, and it's only like $10. So I got 10 days of data. I don't know how much the calling and texting was. All I cared about was the data. I got 10 days for 10 gigabytes for less than $10. So I paid, I think, $9.20, and I had a Mongolian SIM card. So, and that was how I was able to access all this stuff, because a couple of my colleagues, their Chinese SIM cards worked over there, like they had data, but because it was still running through China, they couldn't access any like Western social media. So but here's the weird thing though, Jared, is we had Wi-Fi at the hotel. And the Wi-Fi worked fine on my phone. It wasn't too bad, actually, but I couldn't connect my laptop. Like, it said I had Wi-Fi, but then when I would go online, it said no internet connection. So I basically brought my laptop for nothing all the way to Mongolia because I didn't use it at all. I used my phone.
Right.
And I was watching YouTube videos. I was, watching like stories on Instagram. I looked yesterday after I took out my Mongolian SIM card. Take a guess how much data I used in 6 days.
I'm going to say 8 gigabytes.
Now, I only had 10 gigabytes. I only used 4 gigabytes.
Oh, wow. That's pretty
That's
good.
it. Yeah. But I
mean, you
also wasn't
didn't-
on my phone that much because
Right,
we
like
were
you weren't
busy.
looking at it all day. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And really, I use it mostly for pictures. And I'm so glad I had it. So we went to the Genghis Khan statue. That was amazing. We got to see a lot of gurs, and a gur is the Mongolian word for yurt. It's like this special rounded tent they make. And I will tell you, to all our listeners out there, who I hope you will go to Mongolia after listening to this episode in the future, because it's a great country, amazing city. We'll talk about the food in a minute, too, because the food is something else over there.
No, you obviously know I was...
Right.
But
But I will, just a cultural note, I would say call it a gur and not a yurt, because that is the Russian word for it. And that also
yurt
kinda,
is?
Yeah, and so that kind of goes back to those times. So I would say call it a gur. That's what they call it over there. And then you're not going to offend anyone culturally. And yeah, so that's really cool. So we got to see those. And there are, even within the city of Ulaanbaatar, there are neighborhoods where it's all gurs. It's all these rounded
cool.
tents. So you get... Go ahead.
Are any of them like extravagant, or not extravagant, but they're like maybe like 2 or 3 connected to make a big one?
No.
Or is it...
No.
Are they like that because they are nomadic people, so it's break down and build up?
And they have to break them down. They have to change the cover for winter and summer because Ulaanbaatar is the coldest capital city in the world. It can get below minus 30 there.
Damn.
Yeah, so
Well, I mean,
can be very
the
cold.
elevation's super high, isn't it?
Right, yes. And it snowed while I was there.
Ooh,
So I got to see some snow. That was great. I loved it. I was walking home, and it started snowing. It was awesome. But yeah, so they have all these gurs, which are these rounded tents. They have them within the city, and then you see them. When we went out to the statue, it was about a 2-hour drive. I think it was about 50 or 60 kilometers away. Could be more. But you also see that, and then you see tons and tons of horses, cows, and sheep, which was awesome. There were a few times where our bus driver had to stop. He honked the horn, and then the sheep would cross the road, or the horses would cross the road. So that was interesting to see.
What was the terrain like driving outside of Ulaanbaatar?
So some of the roads were pretty bad. Like we coming from Michigan, we complain about the roads. Some of these roads were really bad. But then it was also weird because in the city, the traffic was terrible. It took us just as long to get out of the city as it did to travel to our destination once we were actually on the road and going. So that just goes to show you how congested the traffic can be there. And the other interesting thing about traffic, though, Jared, about cars, is they have a lot of Toyota Priuses, but they all have left-handed, the steering wheels are on the right side of the car, like in England.
Right. But they drive on the same side as we do.
On the left. So you see steering wheels. Yeah, so you see steering wheels on both sides. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I heard that happened for like back when like there was something I don't now I don't remember the story. I'm mad I brought this up. But yeah, I've heard about that, and it does make things very confusing from what I've heard.
Well, I can tell you at least I know most of the cars that have the steering wheels on the opposite side for Westerners, they're bought from Japan. Because that's the side where the steering wheels are in Japan, so that's why.
Right.
And I've never seen so many Toyota Priuses in my life. There were tons and tons of them in Ulaanbaatar. And all of them had the steering wheels on the right side of the car. So that was interesting. But anyways, so I got to see lots of cool animals. Like I said, golden eagle, double-humped camel, a lot of horses. Horses are a huge thing in Mongolian culture. I mean, it enabled them to have the vast empire they had. And moving on to food, Jared, they do eat horse in Mongolia.
Okay.
And you better believe I tried me some horse.
How was it?
It was interesting. It was good, but it definitely tasted different than any other meat I've had. Like, and it's hard for me to...
What was like the consistency of it? You can't relate it to anything, really?
Well, I'm trying to think. Well,
was it a dark meat?
It was a dark meat. It was a dark meat. You could kind of relate it to like like beef, like not like a steak, but like thin cut. Like, you know how if you go to a Chinese restaurant and you get a dish with beef, it's like thin, like cuts of beef.
Sure.
That's kind of how it was. I will say it tasted, I don't know if gamey is the right word, but it did taste a little bit different.
Tough.
Not really tough. It was tender meat, but it just had a different taste to it than any other meat I've had.
Now, I wonder if some of that was psychosomatic, like in your head.
Could be, but I mean, it was good, and they have a couple different Mongolian dishes. We had, it was really good. It was horse meat with noodles, and that was really delicious. And a restaurant recommendation I would give to any tourists going there would be, it's called Modern Nomads is the name of the place. It's a restaurant. And not only do they have a lot of great traditional Mongolian food, but they also have vegetarian equivalents. So if you are vegetarian or vegan, there are dishes there for you, which is great. They have one of my favorite dishes over there is called kushur. And kushur is like this, it's almost like a, so in China they have like steamed dumplings, right? Mm-hmm. This almost looks like an empanada or like a taco shell that's been closed up, or like and they have meat inside. So it's fried, and they have either lamb or horse or beef inside of it. Or
So
you
kinda
can
like
get it with
almost
vegetables.
like a samosa, maybe.
Yeah. That's probably a better equivalent, but it was so good. Like, I don't know what the dough is made out of, but it was delicious.
Sorry, I found it online.
Yeah, it's super tasty.
Did you indulge in any sort of milk-related beverages?
I tried their milk tea. So it's like this salty, warm milk tea. It wasn't bad. It wasn't my favorite, but it wasn't bad. I did not try any fermented horse milk. For me, that was just a little too extreme.
Is it fermented in the sense like it's alcoholic?
I have no idea. I couldn't tell you. I didn't try it. I did try some good Mongolian beer. The beer was pretty good. It was all more like a light beer, like a lager, but it was pretty tasty. Let's see here. What else did I have? I had horse meat, which was interesting. I tried kushur, which was really good. I also, for the first time in my life, I had liver, so that was interesting. Didn't mind it. So I'm slowly becoming more adventurous.
This is exciting. Yeah, liver is definitely one of those ones that's like, I'm not against it, but just in my head, it's just like, ooh, you know, like that's just my first thought, which is never a good way to go into trying any new food.
Correct. Very true. But yeah, and the nice thing too about Mongolia is, or at least Ulaanbaatar, I keep saying Mongolia, I mean Ulaanbaatar, is because it's the capital city, there's a lot of different restaurants. So you can get Western style food. We went to an Irish pub, and they actually had Pilsner Urquell on tap, which was pretty good.
Cool.
And the food there was great. I had the Genghis Khan burger, which was a hamburger with bacon and other stuff, and it came with a salad and fries. But that was really good.
Are there a lot of expats in Ulaanbaatar?
I would say yes and no. I think there are a lot of businessmen, and where we were right downtown, where like we weren't too far from like other embassies and stuff. And so I think you see like those type of expats there, like businessmen and diplomats and stuff, and people working at the embassy. But otherwise, I don't think there's a ton of expats there, not like other countries. And
There's
sadly,
not like a lot
I think
of business going on there, I assume.
more than you'd think. But sadly, I think Mongolia and Ulaanbaatar fly under the radar. You know, when people think of Asia, they think of, oh, I'm going to go to Seoul, or I'm going to go to Tokyo or Beijing or Shanghai. But I think Ulaanbaatar is definitely worth a trip. It's such an amazing city. And the last thing I'll talk about, Jared, because we could go on for hours, but the last thing I'll talk about is I went to this event at the Tumanek Theater, which is a traditional Mongolian theater, and they had about an hour act where they showed some traditional Mongolian dance, traditional Mongolian music, and in certain provinces in Mongolia, they also do contortion, which is basically like this crazy flexible gymnastics routine.
Oh yeah, kind of like the guy from Ocean's 11.
Exactly. And so they played a lot of really cool traditional Mongolian music, which we'll get to in a minute when we talk about our song of the pod, a little teaser for our listeners out there. But the music was really cool because they had a lot of traditional instruments. So they have an erhu, which is it's kind of like I would say it's like an Asian cello in a way, but it only has two strings. and it has like a box
yes.
shape. And that was really cool. A lot of the other instruments, I don't know what the names are, but they had this one that was kind of like a harp, or like in Austria, they have what's called a zither, which is like a small harp. And in Austria, I believe you pluck it. In Mongolia, they actually use these little sticks and they hit it. So that was really cool to watch. Then they had a couple different Mongolian-style singers. And one of the types of singers, it had like really cool like jumps in between pitches. I would try to imitate it, but I won't do it justice. So just Google, or for our listeners in Asia who don't have Google, Bing traditional Mongolian music, and you'll be able to find it. The other one, though, which was amazing, was the Mongolian throat singing. And so the cool thing about throat singing is a throat singer can make 2 different pitches at once. So I don't know how they do it. I'm still trying to figure out how they do it. It blew my mind when I heard it because you hear this low pitch that they kind of drone, and then they can make a melody on top of that.
Like, wow. Yeah, it's like, yeah. I regret doing that, but yeah.
Right. And so I remember sitting in the crowd and watching, and it was just this one guy who came out and sang. And at first, like later in the act, they had some like throat singing with instruments. But first, it was just this guy doing it. And he had the low pitch that was droning, but then he had a melody. It wasn't like just 2 pitches, but he had the low pitch that was going constant, right? But then he had a melody that was moving on top of it.
The low pitch to me kind of sounds like a didgeridoo, I would say.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. It has this very droning effect to it, absolutely. But oh man, it was so cool to watch this. And so if you go to Ulaanbaatar, check out the Tumanek Theater, but get there early because tickets sell out. But it is a really cool way to experience some traditional Mongolian art and culture, which was really amazing. I loved Ulaanbaatar, man. I'm hoping to go back. It was such a cool city.
It seemed like you had a blast.
I did. And the cool thing about Mongolia is I think it's a little bit more open in terms of, obviously, there's internet freedom over there. But I think people are, I didn't feel like I was constantly being stared at and watched like I do here in China. So that was a nice difference. And I'll tell you what, man, Mongolian men and women, they've got style. And I think it's because they have more Western influence on clothing. So I felt like when I was looking at what people were wearing, I thought like I was back in Europe, to be honest with you. Like women dress very nicely. There's a really cool mall. If you go to Ulaanbaatar, it's called the State Department is the name of the mall. And it's 6 stories high. And on the 6th story, on the 6th floor, there's a lot of awesome Mongolian stuff. So you can buy an erhu, that Mongolian style cello.
Now, how much did you consider buying one of those?
Oh, dude, it was so hard for me not to buy one. So hard. And the cool thing about them,
up your alley.
Right? And I don't think it would be that hard to learn how to play because it's just a bow and 2 strings. So I think I could figure it out. But I wanted to buy one so bad. You know me. Like, I saw one. I was like, should I get it? And I was like, no. Like, come on, Chad. Let's be realistic.
Transporting it might be a little scary too.
Exactly.
Like they seem kind of delicate.
Right. But on the 6th floor, not only can you buy cool Mongolian instruments, you can also buy traditionally made bow and arrow, which I also shot while I was there. That was really cool.
How'd you do?
You can terrible. There was the tension on the bow was really high.
That you used to shoot?
I've shot bows before, but it was always a compound bow, which once you get it to a certain pulling point, it comes back easy.
Right.
A recurve, which is a traditional bow, it doesn't get any easier. Yeah.
Right.
And so I would guess there was probably 50 pounds of tension on the string. So you have to pull. It's like pulling back 50 pounds.
Right. And it's probably a little harder to aim, too, because I assume the compound might have a better aiming system on it.
Right. Well, and with a compound bow, there's also like a slot where you stick your arrow. With the bow I was using in Mongolia, you had to basically rest it on the top of your hand.
Right.
So the arrow kept popping off. So anyways, but that was cool. So check out the 6th floor. You can also get traditional Mongolian clothing. So they have like these really beautiful robes you can get. Also thought about buying one of those, but I didn't. They have really cool different style hats in Mongolia. And I'll send you pictures too from the concert though, Jared, because they were wearing all traditional Mongolian clothing and it is beautiful. It's like this kind of really cool East meets West, because the hats to me almost look kind of, I know this is probably not good, and if any listeners from Mongolia are listening right now, they're probably going to be shaking their heads, but some of the hats to me look kind of like more traditional Russian hats with an Asian twist to it, but the robes to me look much more Asian. So you can buy all that stuff at the State Department, and you can also get Western style clothing. So they had like they had Levi's was there. They had Tom Taylor, which is I don't know if they're Danish or Swedish, but Tom Taylor has a lot of cool stuff. They had Mango, which is another clothing store. And they have a like really cool grocery store downstairs as well. So if you need groceries, check out the State Department. It's really awesome. And yeah, Mongolia is amazing. And now I think it's time for us to talk about our song of the pod, which is by the group Hunhur 2, and the name of the song is called Ancestors. And I specifically searched for a song that had Mongolian throat singing to show to Jared and to all of you today. So let's talk about it, Jared.
There's definitely Mongolian throat singing. Honestly, for a hot sec, I did think it was a didgeridoo. And I was like, oh, that's weird. Why is there a didgeridoo in this? And I was like, oh, right. Now I realize why Chad sent me this. And also, the woman's voice in there is beautiful as well. That's just... I was going to say normal singing, but I'll say singing that we're more here in the United States more used to, a style of singing we're more used to. And it was cool. Like, is it a modern song? It doesn't sound like old to me.
I don't know. To me, I think the song is probably a modern spin on a traditional way to sing, would be the way I would put it. Because that's the
vibe I got.
Right, because the string instruments in there, one of them I can tell you is an erhu for sure.
Okay.
Because I saw it live and I know what it sounds like now. But if you listen to the song, there's parts in the song where you can hear what I'm talking about in terms of the performance that I saw, where they have the drone note, and then it sounds like two people singing, or it even. It even, like, the way the tones come out, it almost doesn't sound like a human voice. Like, it sounds like it could be, like, some weird type of flute or something. But that is all made by one person. It's really amazing to see. It's a sight to see. And I remember you telling me when I sent you the song, you said it sounded a little creepy. I think the first time you ever hear throat singing, because it's a low, droning sound, it does sound a little spooky. We are in October. It's spooky season. It does sound a little spooky. But I think once you get used to it, I think it almost has to me now, it's because I've heard it quite a bit, because I've listened to the song a bunch of times and I saw the performance. Now to me, it's almost kind of peaceful.
Interesting. I can understand that. But yeah, definitely for me, it sort of has like this eerie...
absolutely.
Like something's about to happen in the background of a scary movie vibe to it.
Right. Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
But yeah, I can understand really that, cool. Especially once you get used to it. It's sort of like it's sort of like it's the base of the song.
Right.
So it is sort of if you're used to it, I can understand how it would provide a level of comfort to hear that bass.
Right. And the interesting thing, too, and I should have asked which provinces, because I forgot. They never told me which provinces. But there's one province in Mongolia where pretty much everybody knows how to throat sing, men and women. There's another province in Mongolia where pretty much everybody knows how to do, like, traditional Mongolian contortion. So they can, like, they're really flexible and they can spin.
That's the city I want to see.
That's what one of my colleagues kept saying. He was like, go to the throat singing place and learn how to throat sing, and then find yourself a wife at the contortion place. Yeah. Oh, man, it was so funny.
Yeah, I just imagine like I don't know, like they just be like Spider-Manning through the city or something like that.
Right. It's good to know your mind wasn't in the gutter there, Jared. But yeah, oh man, it was such a cool place. Ulaanbaatar has become one of my favorite cities.
Now,
just because,
Oh, sorry, no, just because what?
Just because of the terrain, like the mountains are beautiful. The traditional Mongolian culture, like the art is really amazing. The traditional clothing is super cool. The people were really friendly and really nice. And Mongolian music is fascinating to me. And even this song, too, Ancestors by Hunhur 2, I hope I'm saying the name right, I'm not sure if I am, is really cool. And it's very different than what at least we in the West hear. And to me, Mongolian music, I feel like some people have like the stereotypical image of what Asian music sounds like because they'll go to like a Chinese place and they'll hear it in the background or whatever, or they hear it in movies or whatever. But Mongolian music to me, although it has a lot of aspects of that kind of Asian style of music, I'm not really sure what the correct terminology is for this. I'm not an ethnomusicologist by any means, but it's a little different. It's different than what you would hear in China or Japan or Korea, especially with the throat singing. And that, I think, is only in Mongolia. But it's super cool. So check out our Song of the Pod, Ancestors by Hun 2, on our YouTube channel, Untranslatable Podcast on YouTube. We hope you like it. It is a little eerie, so don't listen to it if you've just watched a scary movie and you're alone in your house or apartment late at night. But give it a listen and listen closely to the throat singing because it's really remarkable. And I want to learn how to do it. I was joking with some of my colleagues and I said, when I go back to Ulaanbaatar, you can take lessons on how to learn how to throat sing. So you better believe, Jared, I'm going to come back and be throat singing on the podcast at some point.
That seems like you're kind of, that seems like that'll be our, I was just going to say that'll be our new theme song. We were joking about that during our theme song on this very episode. That seems like a vacation idea that I can imagine you getting behind is like some sort of music lesson like that.
Oh, that would be... And honestly, I would love to Mongolia just to learn more about the music. Like, learn how to figure out how to play an erhu a little bit and some of the other instruments. That would be super cool.
You could probably have like a music-based vacation by itself.
I could, very easily. That would be fun. That would be awesome. Need to start saving my pennies now, Jared. But
saving your thousands.
That's right. That's right. We would joke around saying we were millionaires there, even though we weren't really millionaires. I think the most I pulled out was I had $400,000, which was roughly $150, and that was almost enough to last me the entire week in terms of like food and stuff.
But you were a millionaire in the sense, like if you were to like pull up your bank statement and
and convert it, sure, yeah, exactly. Actually, well, now that we're on the topic. You have piqued my curiosity, Jared. Real quick, I'm just going to take a look and see what $1 million in their currency would be in U.S. dollars. So let's see here. So $1 million, need a couple more zeros. That's 100,000. All right. $1 million would be $375 U.S. dollars. So there you go.
Yeah, I could do that. So I think I could scrape that together.
Anyways, we are here to promote language learning. And my Chinese word of the pod today is Monggo, which is Mongolia.
Oh, interesting. I guess it makes sense. It kind of sounds like it.
Yep.
I really enjoyed all of your Instagram pictures, and that is a hint towards my Spanish word of the pod, which is tiro con arco. Tiro con arco.
Something with wherever arco is. What is it?
Well, think about that. Some of the activities you did while you were in Mongolia, and think about maybe some shapes that were involved with some of the activities you were doing.
Oh, arcs? Is that arcs or points?
I'm just guessing it is arc, but it means archery.
Oh, cool. Archery. Okay. Yeah.
Tiro con arco. So I don't know what tiro or arco is, but...
Okay. Archery.
Oh, it's probably bow with arch or something like that.
That would make sense. That would definitely make sense. Yeah, and it was really cool to shoot a bow. And I saw them in quite a few shops. You could get them as souvenirs, like handmade, real legit bows. But the problem is, once again, like you can't transport that. Like, you know, they're big. They're really big. How are you going to transport that? And they're kind of expensive.
And, by the way,
go ahead.
So, just to be clear, tiro con arco is to throw with arch. So that's what that means.
Oh, there we go. Okay, interesting. Learning new stuff all the time on the podcast. I love it. So now it's time for some jokes. And I don't want to rag on my newly made Mongolian friends because I love the country and I love the capital so much. But they do love horses and camels in Mongolia. Like you'll see horses, you'll see statues of horses, you'll see horses on their money, you'll see horses in their artwork. Horses are a very big thing in Mongolian life. And so are camels. So I've got some horse and camel jokes for you. So Jared, what do you feed a racehorse?
Power bars.
Fast food.
Oh, that's good.
Why can't horses dance?
I don't know. Why is that?
Because they have 2 left feet.
That's good. I like that. Wow.
Right? For our listeners out there, 2 left feet is a phrase we use when you can't dance. So there you go.
It's an untranslatable we use here in the United States.
Exactly.
I think what you meant to say.
Right. What's the hardest thing about learning to ride a horse?
Not getting kicked in the face.
The ground.
What's the hardest thing about... Oh, so they're essentially saying it's easy to learn how to ride a horse?
No, they're saying you fall off the horse and you hit the ground. The ground is hard.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
You betcha.
Right. All right. What did the horse say after it fell?
Oh, nay. Oh, hell nay.
I like yours better, but the horse said, "I've fallen and I can't giddy up."
That's pretty good, though.
That's a pretty good one, isn't it? I've fallen and I can't giddy up.
That is pretty good.
Right? Okay. So now here's a couple camel jokes for you, Jared. What do you call a camel without a hump?
I don't know.
Humphrey.
Oh, yeah, that's good. Okay.
Because Humphrey is a name and it doesn't have humps. Okay. Let's see here. What is a camel's favorite nursery rhyme?
Oh, this is easy. Humpty Dumpty.
There we go. Humpty Dumpty. That's right. That is right. And lastly, Jared, what do camels use to hide themselves?
What's that?
Camouflage.
Oh man, I didn't even think about that.
That one was too easy. Like sometimes when they're so obvious, you don't get them. So yeah. So there's some jokes for everybody out there for horses and camels.
Yes. You betcha.
So I would say a quote of the pod. If I were to wrap up Ulaanbaatar in like a quote or a sentence, that's so difficult because I don't want to use a generic word like amazing, but it was amazing.
But you don't even have to wrap up. Maybe if this will help, it doesn't have to be like about Ulaanbaatar, but maybe about your experiencing a new. That's a terrible way to make a sentence. Your experience in a new, like in a brand new city that you never knew much about, or like just your, traveling to new places and all the things you can learn, or something like that.
Yeah, I would say Mongolia and Ulaanbaatar. I keep using those two interchangeably, and they're not, because one's the capital, one's the country. But Ulaanbaatar and Mongolia, to me, it's just such an interesting place, because it's where you see past and current kind of mesh together. Like I was saying, they have the gurs, these tents within the city limits, right next to, like apartment buildings that could be, 5 floors or more. Then you see these old Buddhist temples that are also juxtaposed right beside, a high up building. And so for me, Ulaanbaatar is a capital city that has a different vibe than any other capital city I've ever been to.
That sounds really interesting to see that sort of like those sort of contrasting textures and styles. I'm actually looking at a picture now, and there's like this old sort of government style building next to like this super modern blue skyscraper looking thing.
Right.
And it's just cool seeing that sort of style of architecture. You usually don't get that mix. You usually get like a cool sort of like there are a lot of European cities that have cool sort of historical architecture, but a lot of those cities don't really have like a bustling big city vibe that you might see in, I don't know, like a city like Beijing, for example.
Exactly.
So it is cool to see like those meet each other.
Right. And what I would say is
I've never been there.
Right. Do not let Ulaanbaatar or Mongolia fly under your travel radar anymore, because they are so worth seeing. Just be wary when you go, because it can get very cold there. Extremely, extremely cold.
What was the coldest it got for you?
It was in the 30s, so it was freezing.
So not terrible, though.
Right. And if you're looking for cashmere, Mongolia is the place to go, because that's where a lot of it is manufactured. There's tons of cashmere stores. If you are curious what horse meat tastes like, check it out. You can definitely do that in Mongolia. I think it's pretty good. It's worth a try. Definitely try Kushur if you go there. I believe it's spelled Khushuur. I could be wrong, but if you just Google or Bing Kushur, you should be able to find it, or just traditional Mongolian food, and that will come up. That's worth a try.
Khushuur.
There we go. Thank you, Jared. So check it out. But if you do go to Ulaanbaatar, make sure you do plan for the traffic, especially coming in and out of the city, going to the airport. I will say, though, getting through the airport is very easy because it's a very small international airport. So if you get there an hour and a half before flying time, that should be plenty of time for you to get through security and get on your plane. But check out Ulaanbaatar, check out Mongolia. They're amazing. It's an amazing city and an amazing country with so much rich history, awesome cuisine, and really wonderful people. Great. So if you have any questions about Mongolia, let me know. Let us know. Untranslatablepodcast@gmail.com. Jared will have to let me know about those because now that I'm back in China, I can't access it. Also, check out our Instagram for some poppin' pics of Mongolia, Untranslatable Podcast. And if you want to hear some awesome Mongolian throat singing, check out our YouTube channel, Untranslatable Podcast, and find the Song of the Pod playlist.
Brilliant.
It will be up there, and we hope you enjoy. So we hope this episode has given you a little insight on Ulaanbaatar and Mongolia, which is such an amazing and cool place. Definitely worth a visit. Check it out. And we hope you enjoy, and this has inspired you to check out Ulaanbaatar and Mongolia. So as usual, we thank you all for your support, and let us know what we can do to make this podcast better for you by giving us some feedback on iTunes or Stitcher. 5-star reviews are the only reviews that we'd like to accept, so please give us those. We would love it. And if you have any other questions, let us know on Instagram, on Gmail, whatever your preferred method of communication is. So thank you, and as we say here at the Untranslatable Podcast, Děkujeme, muchas gracias, and shusha.